Okay. Ryan Grondin here, the worst arm wrestler in the world, and I'm here with Dave Schell. And Dave is a well-known arm wrestler in our area and probably most areas. And I'm going to interview him tonight as part of a series I'm doing where I interview newer arm wrestlers or beginners rather than, the old elite arm wrestlers that are out there, so that beginners can get a better idea of what it's like getting into the sport and being the new guy and what to expect. So we'll start out with Dave. Why don't you tell us what team you're on and where you're based out of?
Well, I live in Allentown, Pennsylvania. We have our group is called Team Predator. I'm wearing the team shirt at the moment, but I have to kind of smile when you said you want to do this instead of the old regulars, where I may be one of the irregulars, but I'm probably older than most of them.
While we're on that subject, how old are you, Dave?
I was 69 in April.
And that is amazing because you go to more practices than anybody in this area for sure. What's the most practices you've been to in 1 week?
Well, in a week, lately after COVID, I'm not going to quite as many. Three. Usually these days it's 3 or 4 a week. Actually, my all-time record was back in the last December when I went to. Let's see, it was 11 practices in 10 days in 5 states.
Wow, impressive.
Well, I'm not sure if it's impressive or crazy, but it's certainly it probably sets a record for something, maybe craziness.
How long have you been arm wrestling?
About 3.5 years.
3.5 years?
Yes. Had to take off a little bit of time for an injury, and of course we took off several months this spring for because of the pandemic. But I started in June of 2017.
How many people are on Team Predator?
Well, I would say about a dozen. It's one of these things people, come and go. And, when we say team, it's really kind of it's almost like a club, more so than a team. And occasionally we will have a match, rarely with another team, but it's a group of us to get together. It varies. Sometimes we give 2 practices a week, the one in the middle of the week on Wednesdays. We usually don't get much more than half a dozen. On weekends, we might have up to 12 or 15 from our own group, and of course sometimes people coming in from other groups as well.
Who's on the team up there in Allentown?
Oh, okay. Now here you're going to embarrass me by seeing if I can name all 12 of them. But well, the people I started with actually 3 years ago were Mike Milandrovic and Dennis Kochel, otherwise known as Hot Rod. And we now practice at the home of Mike Mo's dad, Mike Ondrick Sr. And they also have a third Ondrick, Mike's sister, Jessie, is with us. We also, John Brown has been our, guru, so to speak, for some time, has some national championships and excellent teacher. Beyond that, see if I can come up with everybody. Dan Bound, Tom Deacon.
Oh, I know Dan Bound. Snarky Dan.
Well, it depends on one's point of view. Tom Deacon has been pulling for a number of years. Johnny Blades. Let's see where do we go through here? Clark Noblock, Bob Schell, actually the whole Schell family. Haven't seen him recently because of apparently some scheduling difficulties. Josh Alpha, Josh sometimes his dad comes along, Bob Alpha. And let's see, who else do I have to, once again, going through the list. What I should actually do here is look at my phone list, and that will, tell me who it is that I'm forgetting, because I'm sure I'm, leaving some names out of this. But let's see, who else do we have here? Who did I not? Lori Capriglione. I didn't mention Lori. And Glenn Jeske, who is Glenn Jeske Jr. actually has recently joined us, from somewhat south of us. Kyle,
He's a good guy, Glenn Jr.
yeah, Glenn Jr. Glenn Sr. is a good guy too.
Yep.
Glenn Sr. is not with our group. And then there's actually just over the last couple of weeks, we've had
Great family.
brother Michael join us. And then we also have two other guys, Kyle Easley, who's recently joined us, and Rafael Saksawa, which I hope I pronounced correctly, who's been with us really, I think a little bit less than a year. I think I have everybody now.
I got to grip up a little bit with Josh Alpha at that New Jersey tournament. On side tables. He's a strong fella.
Yes, Josh actually was a very good wrestler with Bethlehem Catholic High School, which is one of our better programs in the Lehigh Valley here. And Lehigh Valley actually has some very good programs, and then went on and wrestled at Kutztown. So he's been with us perhaps, a little, I would say a year, a little bit more than a year perhaps, but really picks things up very well because I think his wrestling training, not only strength, but also his wrestling training, it taught him angles and forces and whatever has done him very well.
Yeah, no, he's a nice kid. Dan Bound's pretty strong too. Snarky Dan.
Mm-hmm.
He had that super match with Brian Walker, and it went in his favor.
As I recall, I think Brian won one arm and Dan won the other. I recall.
Yeah. I don't know if Steve ever posted all the results of the super matches or not.
I don't believe so. Those and the special awards, the actual matches themselves, the brackets were put up.
Yeah. So, how long into arm wrestling did you break your arm? You had an arm break.
About 4 months. I started in June. Actually, a little bit less than 4 months. I started in late June, and it was mid-October, October the 15th. I was at a tournament, and actually, I did not break it while competing. I was on a side table in the back room practicing with somebody who was equally new, as new as I was. And frankly, we did something that we didn't know was stupid and dangerous, and I ended up with a shattered left humerus.
Gotcha. How'd that feel?
Strangely enough, it really didn't feel at all.
Really?
Kate Bardot was sitting in the room with us, wasn't paying any attention to what we were doing, but Kate went running for ice and drugs as soon as we heard the snap. And so I had, ibuprofen or something, but took me down to the hospital. It was in Harrisburg area. Took me down to the hospital and really didn't, I really was in no pain at all. In fact, the hospital gave you the standard, the emergency room gives you the standard, scale of 1 to 10. How much pain do you have? And I said, maybe 2, if that. And we sat there and sat there and sat there. And the person that had taken me down, Hot Rod took me down and said, heck, you should have told it was an 8. They would have had you in by now. But it really didn't, it gave me no warning when it snapped, and really was not at all painful.
That's surprising. I would think that would hurt like hell. But now, how long did it take you to recover from that and come back to arm wrestling?
Well, this was, like I say, October 15th. And actually, they didn't put it together for a week. The following, actually 8 days later, on the 23rd October, I was then, I was lifting weights as much as I had before the break by February. And I was actually in my first competition, but with the right arm. I broke the left arm. So the other arm, I was competing by late March. And I deliberately waited until 10 months till August to pull with the left arm that I had broken, basically just to be absolutely certain. And I pulled at a tournament where I wasn't going to be in the heaviest weight class, and the people knew me. So I waited, in other words, for something that I thought would be a less dangerous. situation for me. I should add, however, that I did have to get surgery, and I do have metal in my arm. Had I not had metal put in the arm, if it had just been a case of it, the bone knitting itself, it would have taken longer. But I really think part of the delay was that the surgeon really was very familiar with arm breaks. He's a skilled surgeon, but he really wasn't that familiar with people that had, with arm wrestling. And so he really wasn't sure of wasn't as familiar, shall we say, with the torque that would be put on an arm in arm wrestling. So he was a little bit nervous with me coming back.
Gotcha. Now, when you did come back, do you feel stronger after having broken your arm, or did you feel stronger before? Is there a difference?
Well, I was certainly stronger, muscular stronger because I continued to lift weights, continued the, progressive resistance to get stronger that way. People kind of joke about how, well, I have an iron arm and whatever, but really what the metal in my arm does, which is stainless steel, really just reinforced the bone. I was
Yeah.
very fortunate in that it did not touch the nerves, the tendons, the muscles, any of that. It was just a case of a fairly clean bone break, and so where the bone itself is reinforced, unlike some arm wrestling injuries, when people tear their bicep or something along those lines, and they have to be put back together, it really affects their strength because it's affecting the tendons, affecting the bicep length, which really was not the case. So what I'm doing really did not affect muscular strength at all. In fact, if I could add one more thing that just occurs to me, that when I had the bone fixed, the surgeon noted to me that for bone to repair itself was not age dependent, even though I was 66 at the time. He said, really, my bone would heal itself faster than someone considerably younger than me who smoked, which
Oh,
I don't smoke. That
that's interesting.
the smoker would have because of blood oxygenation or something along those lines, would take longer to heal than I did.
So, Dave, you're known as the king of stamina at most of the practices you go to. How did that come about?
Well, almost accidentally. I've been very fortunate in that I really have not had the tendon pain that a lot of new arm wrestlers get. I'm not really sure why. It might be hereditary because I have a cousin that also can just jump into things without having that. But I was at actually a practice in Philadelphia about better than a year ago, and one of the other participants said, "Well, that we're going to have to see if we can do something about this. Basically, wanted to see if it can give me give me a little bit of pain." In a nice way. I don't mean this in any way negative, and just to see the soreness. Maybe soreness is a better word than pain. And what we discovered is, despite the fact this was somebody really stronger than me and far more skilled than me, that we would grip up, and he basically was finding that he had to, in effect, give up each time before I did. Just once again, I don't mean to say I was any stronger. I absolutely was not, but just that some people, after grip up for a while, you end up with what I've always thought of as lactic acid buildup. Although I've since recently talked to a fraternity brother who teaches exercise physiology as his doctorate in that, and he said actually it's lactate, but in any event, just the what you get with the muscle burn, so to speak, and just for whatever reason I don't get it.
That's good. That probably helps out in a tournament. If you're going with someone and there's a bit of a stalemate, you'll probably outlast them.
Well, to a degree, it would if it was somebody that was fairly close to me in strength. Quite frankly, and in all honesty, my tournament record stinks. I'm either pulling against people in super heavyweight that are my weight but considerably more muscular than I am, or if I'm pulling in masters, I'm pulling people who've been pulling for 30 years as
Yeah.
opposed to my 3. But yes, I mean it has. I will say this: I have never won a quick match. All the matches that I won, I haven't really all won all that many, have been battles where I just basically wear the person down.
Very cool. At the Philly practice, whenever there's like a new member, usually everybody sticks the new people with you. Do you enjoy that? Do you like teaching? I know you're a teacher, so do you enjoy the teaching aspect of that when you're working with these like new 20-year-olds that come in?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And what I try to do is start very simply. I've been to some practices, not necessarily ours, where someone comes in and she expresses an interest, maybe like we're at a practice, possibly in a public place, at a bar, and the person comes over and expresses some interest, and people really want to give them too much at first. Where what I do, I start people out and just say, okay, for safety's sake. First thing you do, first rule, watch your hand. Don't turn away from your hand. And second rule is forget everything you remember from high school. Because of course in high school, what did you do? Basically, you took
Right.
your arm and it was everything was
Yeah.
side pressure.
Everybody said curling your wrist was illegal. You couldn't go with your body. That's illegal. It was all just flat wrist and go.
Right. And so you tell them you forget what you remember from high school, because it's not all side pressure. It's side, it's back. You can move your elbow around, and but start them out very basic. And then once I give them the basics, then I pass them on to someone that frankly knows better than I do. And
Right.
I tell them right up front that hey, I'm not starting you because I'm the best arm wrestler here or the strongest, which I certainly am not. I mean, I don't know that I want to take away your title as the worst arm wrestler in the world,
Right.
but certainly I would say that the average practice I go to, I'm definitely in the bottom half, probably the bottom quarter as far as strength.
I know the feeling. Do you have some favorite arm wrestlers of yours in the arm wrestling community?
Well, favorite. I mean, if you mean favorite as far as watching their career, watching their videos, I'd say really no. I probably don't watch as many videos as some people do. I mean, I certainly have a number of people in arm wrestling that have helped me that I appreciate a good bit. Paul Lynn being one of them, John Brown being another. There are people that I have watched at
Paul
tournaments.
Lynn has mentioned you in an interview in the podcast that he's involved with.
Yeah, Paul has been very helpful from the very beginning. In fact, the first tournament I went to in June 2017 was at Sons of Italy in suburban Harrisburg. It was not He was not running the tournament. It was Powerhouse Arm Wrestling Federation, Anthony Laterio running it. But Paul was there and has been, like I say, has been very helpful from from the very beginning.
He was at your Team Predator practice last Saturday, wasn't that?
Yeah, we had a large practice. Normally, like I say, we normally Sundays we have maybe a dozen to 15 where we had a good number of people came in from Harrisburg, from Philadelphia, from the Scranton area, and we ended up with by one count 28 pullers plus a couple other relatives and girlfriends and kids and so forth coming along.
Snarky Dan was there.
Dan Brown is a member of our team, yes.
He's snarky.
Well, I'll let you handle that one. I don't want to get any uproar started here in Allentown.
How did you get into doing brackets for tournaments and stuff like that? A lot of times you help out and help them set up the brackets and call out the names and stuff. Do you enjoy that?
Yeah, if I understand your question, we're talking about practices here or tournaments?
Tournaments, like when you're helping with the brackets and calling out names, setting up the different weight classes. Do you enjoy doing that part of it?
Yeah, that part that I will do. I mean, I'm certainly I had a fraternity brother once that referred to me as meticulous, and I said, "Well, that sounds better than anal retentive, thank you." But so yeah, because you really do have to be very careful, or you end up with a screwed up mess
Right.
in organizing that. And I'm very happy doing brackets. One thing I would never want to do is I do not want to be a referee. Period. So if it's not as a competitor and I want to help out in some other way, I'd help with organization. I'll let somebody else do the refereeing.
Mm-hmm. Do you travel a lot to a lot of practices? Is it because you enjoy the social aspect of it, or are you more just because you're really into the sport, or is it a mixture of both?
Oh, certainly both. I mean, this is a very fraternal sport. Is the word I use. The
Yep.
camaraderie is great, and what I have found is that the vast majority of people that you meet in the sport are really great people, and it's kind of an interesting phenomenon in that uh, when you go to a practice and you run into somebody that you may actually end up competing with at the next tournament, a lot of times they'll still say, "Hey, have you tried this? Have you tried that?" Rather than try to keep secrets, keep their secret techniques to themselves. But yeah, it's been very it's very enjoyable, and I am, as I kind of tell people, I'm semi-retired, which is, I suppose, a politer way of putting that. I just don't get that many classes anymore. I haven't got that many. I teach part time at two history at two community colleges, and so I really, and of course now we're all online, and so as long as I have an internet connection, I can go wandering anywhere. And so yeah, I do put quite a few miles in the car, hitting practices all over the Northeast.
Right. How would you suggest, in your opinion, what promoters and teams and certain individuals could do to grow the sport and represent it in a way that it becomes more respected and recognized in the media as an actual sport?
Well, I'm not sure how I can answer that. As far as growing, let's take these a couple at a time, one at a time. Growing the sport, we certainly have been finding additional people through ArmBet.
That's
Uh,
true. That's absolutely true.
yeah, I spent a couple of years trying to find someone myself. I really People ask me, how did I discover the sport? How did I get into it? What interested me, and maybe is a better way of putting it at first. And my honest answer is I don't remember. I was looking for something to get into, but what put this in my head, I really don't know. But at one time, the we had something called the Northeast Message Board, which by the time I got into this was pretty well, wasn't being utilized as much, let's put it that way. So I had a couple of years, actually, I was looking for someone locally and didn't find anybody. And finally found that first tournament I went to and other people on Facebook, which really is where most of the information and action is now, as far as finding other people. Of course, like I say, now you have ArmBet as well,
Yeah.
but Facebook, go on to that and look for, just put in arm wrestling and you'll find, groups all over the place, arm wrestling discussion, arm wrestling training, and raise a question there that, okay, I live in the, Seasaltsville, Pennsylvania area, who's in this area? And
Right.
somebody who vaguely knows where Seasaltsville is going to say, hey, they'll refer you to someone else, someone that, that knows.
Do you have any advice for like a new puller getting into the sport as far as what to expect? A lot of new pullers have questions like, does it hurt? Does it hurt? Why does my arm hurt? Is it, how long does the pain last? All these type of questions.
I'm really not the person to answer some of those questions because, as I indicated, I've been very
You have no
lucky
pain.
in that I really have not had the pain, the tendon pain. But I know there are some that most people do get that, forearm, and I don't know. It's just been my observation. It seems that, and this is just me anecdotally, that seems like some of the people that were into a strength sport, a different strength sport before, whether it be bodybuilding, powerlifting, whatever, seem to really suffer from some of the pain. And my own thought is that it may be because you use different muscles in arm wrestling than you do in,
Right.
say, powerlifting. And I think what it may come down to is a lot of the powerlifters are able to put so much strength into into their pulling at the very beginning, and that they're really kind of taxing the tendons that they have not used. Where in my case, I had not been in anything except weightlifting for about 2 years, about 2 or 3 years before I started. But I certainly wasn't as strong as someone that younger that can really put the power into it from day one.
Gotcha. Do you have any people that you are looking or gunning for to arm wrestle in the near future?
Well, I probably shouldn't answer that because if I am, I certainly don't want to, alert them. I mean, there's some people I think that know that we've pulled before and that I've come close, and that there are a couple that I've said, you're next, but I think I'd rather not, name anyone, publicly. Sorry about that.
That's probably a smart idea. You know. Now, you come to Team Philly a lot.
Yeah.
Do you notice a difference between teams when you go to certain teams, like strength wise? Do you think like a lot of the teams that are around, like Beast Mode, Team New Jersey, Dave Morocco's practice, Team Philly, Team Predator, the Simcoes, their practices, like do you find that they're all pretty evenly matched if there were to be like some tournaments that were like team versus team? Like are some a lot smaller than others, or some a lot larger?
No, I wouldn't say they're certainly not equivalent. And I don't mean that any one is better than another, but there are some that have a lot more people in it, that you have a lot larger group. There are some that just have happened to just by chance or just by who they attract are generally heavyweight. Some that have more of the new people. Some have mostly people have been pulling for a number of years, and so you get a real variety
Right.
between the different groups as to both the both strength and size. For example, on the few occasions that we have had team matches between there's one between us at Predator, although we were called Praetorian at that time, and the Old Line Armwreckers in Baltimore. Essentially, both teams, their team basically borrowed someone from Lethal Arms because they needed somebody at a certain weight to fill in. Same sort of thing when Lethal Arms in Harrisburg had several years ago had a team match with Beast Mode in New Jersey. They basically borrowed one of our lightweights. It is Lethal Arms borrowed one of our lightweights because they needed an extra one to fill in a spot. So there's different sizes, different weights, and
Right.
you get a real variety. I will say this though, there's really no limitation in size, in age, in gender. We haven't really talked about women, arm wrestler during this interview, but there are some very active women,
Mm-hmm.
and we have several on our team. I mentioned Bob Sell. Bob Sell's wife, Megan, has sometimes pulled with us. Jesse Androvic, and
Sue Fisher goes up that way recently
sorry.
too, right? Sue Fisher goes to your practices now and then too, right?
Sue Fisher has been to our practice several times. I first, of course, met her with the Philadelphia team.
Mm-hmm. Now you go to the gym, correct?
Yes.
Do you do general workouts, or are you starting to do any arm wrestling specific workouts or anything?
Candidly, I probably do more general, some that arm wrestling related. I really don't, in all honesty to myself, I really don't do as much for arm wrestling, for example, say wrist exercises, which than I should. On the other hand, some of those which I do for general strength are still aimed uh, at arm wrestling to a degree. The best example I'd give you is, for example, chest exercises. I do not hardly ever do presses. I don't bench press. I don't, use, dumbbell for any of that. What I'll do
Right.
instead is I'll do chest flies, and usually with just one arm at a time. Where, strictly speaking, someone coming in and maybe a bodybuilder looking at the sort of things we do would say that's really not a strictly speaking a chest fly, because you're doing one arm at a time, you're twisting your body, you're not just strictly working on the chest, which is true.
Right.
You're using other muscles as well, but that's what we do. So really, I suppose in that and some exercises, what I am doing is I'm doing things that could be said to be uh, could be said to be aimed at motion that we would have in arm wrestling, even if it's strictly speaking not an arm wrestling exercise.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Now you've told me that you lost a lot of weight at one point. Were you arm wrestling when you started to try to lose weight, or
No,
was that before?
yeah, oh, that was before. No, I've been well, actually, I was skinny in high school. I joke that I went from skinny and unathletic in high school to fat and unathletic at college without stopping at athletic, which has a good bit of truth to it. And but I was morbidly obese for most of my adult life. In fact, when I started, and of course, I would lose weight and gain it all back. In fact, I tell people I'd lose weight and gain back 120% of it, which for those that are mathematically challenged, of course, means that I gained back more than I lost. And that was repeated over several decades. And finally, in 2014, I made the most recent attempt and started losing weight. And actually, at that time, yeah, I have pretty good, once again, my meticulous record keeping. I could look back and in the previous 30 years, previous 32 years prior to 2014, I had been over 400 pounds for half of that, 16 years, and over 350 for, most of it. And so I started losing weight in 2014, came down from about 420 into the 230s. But that was before actually, by the time I started arm wrestling in 2017, I'd really lost most of the weight before then. Unfortunately, I have now come up a little bit. I'm, in probably where I say I got as low as the 230s. I'm now in the 280s, 290s, some of which, to be perfectly honest with you, is muscle, but a lot of it is not. I really have to get serious and, get down again to get out of super heavyweight.
I feel you there. That may be something that we do at the same time.
Yes, maybe we'll have a public challenge. Anyone who wants to join us, so we'll call it the Get Out of Super Heavyweight Challenge, and we will publicly announce this so that basically, if we screw up, we'll
Be held accountable,
look like we look like real idiots,
and we'll get trolled.
something like that.
Now, do you feel? How do you? Let me word that differently. How do you feel like people get offended when people use the words like super match, grudge match, challenge match? Do you think these types of matches are bad for the sport, or good, or neutral? Like I enjoy watching them, but I feel like sometimes some of the higher level guys get mad when the lower level guys set up like a grudge match or a challenge match. Like it's something that should only be done by the elite guys.
Well, no, I think they're generally very useful. Uh, I kind of cringe at the term grudge match because the
Unless there's a grudge.
yeah, does a person really have a grudge? I mean, I understand, but a lot of people don't understand it. Think, well, these two people.
I think Chuck Ryder would grudge match me.
I would say probably with some of the you did speak about trolling earlier, and yeah, I would say that most likely that would definitely be someone of a grudge. To be honest with you, until recently, I was unaware that anybody had any objection to the word supermatch, which apparently some people do think that
Yeah,
that should be saved for the elite. So fine, call it a challenge match, call it whatever you want.
yeah,
But no, I see no problem with it. The only problem I see is that sometimes the if it is difficult to tell whether the crap talking back and forth is real or is in jest,
yeah. Like
it's
to
going to
hype it up.
yeah. At times it does get to the point where you really think, are they really just busting each other's chops, or are they really getting nasty? And that I think sometimes it goes too far.
Yeah, I could see that. You can only have crap talk so much. At the end of the day, we're supposed to be sportsmanlike and friends.
And frankly, generally they are. I mean, when these that's why I said it's really not a grudge. Even the people that are, the appear to be the nastiest
Yeah,
really aren't. But sometimes it's hard to tell. And
right.
they're over, they will often, you know, they're still the best of friends,
Right.
and to be honest with you, usually the people that are doing this are people that that do know each other for a period of time. This is at least
Yeah.
at, let's put it this way, maybe not at the elite level. The elite level, then yes, and you do get people from different areas of the country, different countries, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly for the ones we have at these smaller tournaments in, say, Philadelphia, for example, are people that are from a couple hours drive time of each other and have possibly practiced together, have competed against each other frequently, and then just decide to issue a challenge, which certainly is fine.
What would you say to a new puller that's interested in learning how to arm wrestle or participating? Um, what would you say to someone like that that hasn't taken that step yet to coming to a practice?
Find a group that's close to you and show up. And like I say, most people are very, very helpful. I mean, there are some groups out there that really are not interested in new people, but the vast majority, that's not the case.
Right.
Now, I will warn you that if that's the word I'm looking for, that you may have to drive. I mean, you're not going to necessarily find, even in an area such as we are in eastern Pennsylvania, and we have really about a dozen groups in Pennsylvania, probably as many as any state that I know of. Different groups, but still you may end up living somewhere that you'll have to go an hour or have to go 2 hours to to
Right.
find a practice, and some people just aren't prepared to do that. You're not necessarily going to find somebody 20 minutes from your front door.
Right. But I would say that Arm Bets has helped with that because, I mean, just Philly alone, we've added like maybe 6 new people since Arm Bets came out just from
Yeah, and
inviting them to practice.
well, yeah, and there once again, when we talk about what is a group or what's a team, in some cases we just you can start getting into the sport just by having two or three people get together on a table on an arm
Oh
wrestling.
yeah, absolutely.
Now, the caution I would give there is if everybody is new, you have to be very careful because if once again, as I say, when I broke my arm, uh, was doing something without going into detail that neither I nor the person who had also just started knew was dangerous. I mean, they say, people say, watch your hand, watch your hand, watch your hand. Well, I was staring right at my hand when my arm snapped. But we were doing something. In this case, I was pressing instead of pulling, and it was something that neither of us knew was dangerous. Had I been arm wrestling with someone that even somebody that was considerably stronger, considerably bigger, but knew what they were doing, it would not have happened. So you have to
Gotcha.
be careful when you have everybody new at the same location. But other than that, really, it's not that you have to, find some big group. Hey, find two or three people to get together, get a table, and you're on your way.
Gotcha. That's good advice, and I agree. That's pretty much how I was talking to you and a few other arm wrestlers before I ever showed up to a practice, and you guys constantly told me to just go to a practice.
And you finally did.
And I finally did, and now I go all the time. I made a lot of good friends.
Yes, it really, as I say, it's really a very fraternal sort of thing. I had actually been a volunteer for my college fraternity, visiting some of the local the chapters in Eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey, in this general area, and parts of New York, and basically they got rid of my my regional office position. They just got rid of all the regional officers for a while, and so I was really just this kind of picked up on it that this is. Really, it's just like I say, it's really very much most people in this will take their shirt off their back to help you. It's
Oh, absolutely.
very fraternal
Absolutely.
in that sense.
You're one of those people.
Well, I certainly, I might, if I take my shirt off my back, I'd probably cover up with something else because you don't want to see me with my shirt off my back. That's,
Oh,
but once again, that's where we have to
save some ladies for the rest of us, Dave.
that's why we have to get into this weight loss, situation.
Yeah, I'm down. I bet we could get a few others to do it with us.
You can certainly try.
Well, Dave, I want to say thank you for giving me your time and letting me. This is my first interview, so hopefully I'll get better from here.
Well, since you are famous as the worst arm wrestler in the world,
That's true.
certainly, I would imagine that that your upcoming interviews will add to your.
Maybe they'll get worse.
Add to the, I'm not sure if luster is the word I'm looking for here, but you're, uh, you. I should say, I mean, if you're too modest to say it yourself, even though should tell your fans that even though you have never actually participated in a tournament, you just started, practicing a short time ago. You will go to a tournament and people, Ryan shows up at a tournament and people say, I know you. You're the worst arm wrestler in the world. I've seen
That
your
is
video.
true. That is true, which is odd because I'm not known for arm wrestling. I'm just known for being a troll and making goofy videos.
Yes.
My rubber band videos. Well, Dave, thank you for your time tonight, and I'll see you at practice. And it was an interesting first attempt at an interview.
Okay. Glad to help.
Thanks, man.
Right. Bye-bye.
Catch you later.